Thank you. I would like to welcome everyone to the April 2024 Council meeting. I declare the meeting open at 6:35 p.m. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Kulin Nation. We offer our respect to the elders of these traditional lands and to them, to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, past and present. So, mobile phone, I kindly remind everyone to switch phone off or turn to silent.
Thanks, Mayor.
The recording of meeting proceeding, I advise the gallery that this meeting is being recorded and will be available on Council's website. All care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, your presence might be recorded. In accordance with the Council's governance rule, meeting may not be photographed, filmed, or recorded without the consent of the Chief Executive Officer. CEO, any requests?
No, Mayor, no requests.
Thank you. Apologize and virtual attendant. Okay, so is there any councillor leave of absence this evening? Councillor, I believe Councillor Carter, Sarah Carter, still absent. Any apology for tonight's meeting? I don't think so. We have 6 councillors here. Thank you. Now, the conflict of interest in accordance with the Local Government Act 2020. Does any councillor have a conflict of interest in relation to any agenda item? No. Okay, thank you. Public question time. We now move into the public question time. I would like to take this opportunity to explain how public question time will proceed. This is the only time question from the public will be accepted at this meeting. And how the public question time works. Members of the public are asked to submit their question prior to the commencement of this meeting. Any matter can be raised so long as it is according with the Council governance rule. A maximum of 3 questions per person is permitted. As the chair, I will decide who answers the question. Public question time is limited to 15 minutes unless an extension of the public question time is resolved by Council. Now, we start the public question time. There's a few of public question time here, CEO. So could you there's a 27,
Yes,
is that correct?
27 questions tonight, Mayor.
Okay, so I will read a few questions and then I can ask someone to answer that. Now, number 1, when is the surplus reserve fence come down? And number 2, how many square meter of splitting reserve grass will be covered by Western Bulldog concrete and bricks? Could I ask the director from infrastructure, Pat, to answer that, please?
Thank you.
Jed.
Thank you, Mayor. I can confirm that Sperling Reserve is actually on Crown land and managed by the Western Bulldogs, and you might note it forms part of the Whitten Oval complex, which is currently under redevelopment. We suggest that these 2 questions are best directed to the Western Bulldogs.
Okay, thank you. I must apologise that the question that come from Mr. Daniel Flood asked that the following question, right? Okay, so the number 3, can council, sorry.
Just on that, is that in regards to the planning permit? Would that be the relevance of the question? I'm just wondering if it's more relevant for the planning director or?
That's
No.
just the general.
Just the general,
The general question?
and the planning directors.
No.
saying
Okay.
no.
Okay.
Question number 3, can council ask the state to invest in opening Jack magazine for free use by locals? 30,000 plus residents are expecting to fill high-rise tower near High Point by 2040. Given our portrated high-density living, public space like this must be opened to the public and not closed off for private wedding and stake profit. Could I ask Mrs. LJ, the director from
Yes.
Planning?
Planning and Environment Director.
Mrs. Joe Mellons, would you please answer that?
Thank you, Mayor. So it's important to note that Council has not made a decision regarding the proposal for Jack's Magazine and is currently assessing the planning permit application as it's required to do under the Planning and Environment Act. The public notification process is part of the statutory planning process, and it's important for Council officers to understand the concerns and views of the community. At this stage, it's too early to discuss the potential future use of the site, given Council has not yet made a decision on the planning permit application. Should Council decide to refuse the application, then it may call for alternate uses to be explored directly with the state government at this point.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Mrs. Mellon. Now, question from Mr. Rob Rowlands asked the following question. Council's electric vehicle charging infrastructure policy 2020 implied that a suitable threshold for charging infrastructure is one charging bay for every 15 EVs. Currently, there are about 800 EV registered in Maribyrnong, but only 4 fast charging bay, and all of these are one location in south of the LGA. I live in the West Road of Maribyrnong and want to buy an EV, but don't have access to charging at home. What is the council doing to increase the amount of public charging infrastructure, and when we see more charging available? Would you like to answer that too, Mrs. Mellon?
Thank you, Mayor. So an update to the EV charging policy is subject to a report in this evening's agenda, which looks to update the information to make it more contemporary with current practice. The first public EV chargers, in terms of what Council can do in that space, came online in Footscray in February this year after an extensive process to find a suitable site. In order to try and expand the number of public charging points throughout the municipality, Council has commenced work on an expression of interest process to gain a detailed understanding of the market and the range of solutions that may be available to establish more publicly accessible EV charging stations on Council-owned and managed land. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor,
Yes?
if I could,
Yes,
please.
sure, go.
Just in response to that inquiry, Your Worship, I think it needs to be understood by the community of the uniform commitment that this council has to renewable energy and our commitment to moving from fossil fuel vehicles to EV vehicles, electric vehicles. This is the beginning, Your Worship, what we've got out there now, and I think all of us here on this council would agree, it is just that, the beginning, and we have a strategic intent to increase the overall number of EV chargers right throughout this city. I'd like, Your Worship, for the community to have no illusions. We will be ahead of this game wherever we possibly can be. It's really important that people understand we have a commitment to renewables and we will do what we can. And I do thank, Your Worship, the work by the Planning Executive Director for the efforts that she has made and her team in this domain. It's great to see.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Now, this question is come from Mrs. Maria Taylor. Asked the following question. There are 3 questions. Question number 1, regarding the event by Jack proposal, why does the council persist in endorsing developments that blatantly trample on the right and happiness of its residents? Question number 2, how can you justify prioritizing profit over peace and enjoyment of those you are meant to serve? Residents are not prone to be sacrificed for economic growth. It's time for the council to feed the impassioned pleas of each community member rather than turning a deaf ear to our legislating concern of noise, environmental destruction, and ignoring our right to the family peace. Please explain yourself. Number 3, it's time for council to serve the people, not the developer from the other side of town who seeks to exploit our neighborhood for their own gain. Who will be responsible for the burden of noise, pollution, and destruction of our beautiful nature? Would you kindly answer that to Mrs. Mellon? Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. So as previously discussed in response to another question, Events by Jack have applied to Council for planning permission to use part of the existing Jack's magazine site as a place of assembly, specifically a function centre, for up to 200 patrons. The site is proposed to operate from Sunday to Wednesday from 6 p.m. and Thursday to Saturday until 11 p.m. This proposal was advertised in mid-2023 and so far has received 5 supporting submissions and 73 objections, and a petition was also presented to Council at the February 24 meeting containing 391 signatures. It's important to note that Council has not made a decision regarding the proposal. It is assessing the planning permit application as it is required to do under the Planning and Environment Act, and the public notification process, as I mentioned, is part of this statutory process to provide the community the opportunity to comment on any development proposal. When assessing the application, Council officers will take into account the objectives and strategies outlined in the Maribyrnong Planning Scheme and other relevant Council policies, such as the Maribyrnong Open Space Strategy. The application is still undergoing assessment, but should Council officers decide to support the application, then a report will be prepared for councillors to be considered at a future meeting. Any person who made a submission or objected to the application will be invited along to the council meeting and will have the opportunity to directly address the councillors. Should council officers decide not to support the application, then this decision may be made under delegation and not necessarily come into the chamber. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Melland. Now, this question comes from Mrs. Angela Asley Chu. Ask the following question. Number 1, deep appreciation to the Maribyrnong City Council librarians who respond to the severe heatwave declared by the Vic Emergency Services on the March long weekend by staffing extending hours to help provide relief to those needing it. But in future, what communication plan will Council put in place to provide more notice to the community, especially those vulnerable but not on social media, to take advantage of additional heatwave measures during extreme heat event? Could I ask Mr. Lucas? Yeah, or
Probably
Mrs.
Laura
Laura?
Jo. Either one.
Either one. So who volunteers?
I can do it, Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
So staff working with families will ensure that client support services visits are adapted during an extreme heat event to enable staff to monitor the health and well-being of clients. Maribyrnong City Council will also relay heat health information through our network of organisations that may work with at-risk communities. More broadly, we recommend all residents, business owners and visitors to stay aware of the weather conditions via their preferred weather and news service and plan accordingly ahead of time. Information on how to stay well during hot weather can be found on the Better Health channel, and the messaging about heat will include practical solutions to stay cool at home. Within the City of Maribyrnong, other organisations and agencies will respond to heat warnings, and this information can be found on our website within the Maribyrnong Municipal Extreme Heat Subplan. As future heat events present, council services, including libraries, will evaluate and take steps to ensure that spaces for heat relief are available should it be required. To the extent possible, council will notify the community through physical signage and direct engagement with its service users prior to the event, as well as the usual online and other communication channels. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mrs. OJ and Mrs. Mellon. Thank you. So the next question comes from Mrs. Sari Leibai. Ask the following question. Number 1, please discuss the officer's recommendation that council invited feedback on the proposed budget and hear any person who has request to be heard in supporting of their form of feedback on the proposed budget at a meeting to be held on the 27th of May 2024. What is meant by form of feedback on the proposed budget? How do the community member or groups request to be heard at the 27th of May meeting? And what step can community member take now to change allocation within the budget, either to add new item or to delete line item we consider an inappropriate expense? Now, could I have Mrs. Lisa King, Director, please answer that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Prior to the adoption of the Local Government Act 2020, engagement on the annual budget was prescribed in legislation in what was known as a Section 223 process. This required things like a public notice, submissions and hearings to be held. Under the new Act, this Section 223 process no longer exists. However, given the importance of community involvement in setting the annual budget, along with general comments and feedback provided anonymously, Council still provides the opportunity for residents to provide what is classed as formal feedback. Formal feedback is captured on a specific form that, among other things, records the identity of the respondent, their feedback, and provides opportunity for them to present their views to councillors at a later hearing, effectively mirroring the previous process. Any member of the community can provide feedback on the proposed budget for consideration by council prior to adoption of the budget in June. Anyone who submits formal feedback is also able to request to be heard, and subject to the resolution made by council tonight, we expect that the information on the process will be available on the website and our engagement portal tomorrow.
Thank you, Mrs. King. Now, the question number 2.
Mayor,
Oh, sorry.
sorry, if I can just add to that. Am I correct in saying that residents also have the opportunity earlier in the piece, say about November, to provide thoughts on the budget that they would like to see included? So, because I understand that this is sort of the 11th hour now. So yeah, just wanted to remind people that they can get in earlier in the process if they want to have that earlier influence. And that's not to say that this later influence can't still have an impact.
CEO, would you like to respond to that?
Thank you. Through the Mayor. Yes, you are correct, Councillor Crawford. In November last year, we asked the community they could submit to the council in terms of what they would like to see in the budget, where they would like the money spent, and that was accessed through our online portal. People could certainly write in as well or send an email if they didn't want to use that. And we have collated all of that information, and now we are doing the formal part of putting the draft budget out, and people have 28 days to put in a submission or respond on the format on that. There's 2 opportunities for people.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Now, the question number 2, please advise all money spent and work undertaking in 2023-24 financial year relative to the proposal McIver Research Indoor Sport Facility, and advise what further will likely to be spent on the proposal indoor stadium for the remainder of the financial year. To the extent that any schematic design, business plan, business strategy, or other similar documents have been prepared, where are those available for the community to review? Would you like to answer
Yes,
respond to
certainly
that?
I can answer.
CEO?
Council staff have done work on artist impressions or 3D elevations of the stadium and dog park area, and they have been developed for the purpose of attracting external funding from state and federal government. So they're just very draft drawings, not even schematic designs. The community will be consulted on further designs when we get a proper design prepared schematically. Which certainly won't be the final design, but we'll start consulting with the community when we have those ready. And the time frame for this hasn't been confirmed as yet, but I will say that there's not funds in the budget for that project next year.
Okay, thank you.
Your Worship,
Yep.
I'd like to move that we extend question time by 15 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, oh, in supporting? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Now, the question number 3, please advise all money spent and work undertaken in the 2023-24 financial year relative to improvement and maintenance at McIver Reserve, other than money spent on the proposed indoor sport facility, and advise of what further will likely be spent and done at McIver Reserve, other than the proposed indoor stadium for the remaining of the financial year. Is this similar to what you said?
Thank you,
Can
Mayor.
please answer? Yep.
Through you, Council has and is continuing to deliver the following projects this financial year across McIver Reserve: hockey and soccer club fencing, detailed environmental soil analysis, concept planning for Yarraville Glory Main Pavilion, and irrigation works within the baseball field. Not all projects are complete, however, they represent an investment of approximately $1 million across the site.
Through the chair, upgrades to the dog park or maintenance to the dog park?
I don't believe we've
Through the chair.
spent money on that yet, no.
Existing current budget, there's some maintenance items, but
Yes,
not,
but there are
yeah. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yep. Thanks to...
And that is part of the future
Yeah.
works, Councillor Clark.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, CEO. Would you like to take over some questions?
Yes,
Thank you.
so we now have 3 questions from Mark Bulch. And the first question is, when will the toilets that were promised by the council be built at McIver Reserve? Councillor Clark promised these and we have been waiting for 16 months for an actual date. Can you give us one as they are required? And the second question is, when will the lights that were promised by the council for the dog park at McIver Reserve be installed? Councillor Clark promised these and we have been waiting 16 months for an actual date as they are required for the safety of dog park users. And the Director of Infrastructure could probably
Thank
answer
you.
that.
Yep,
Mayor.
okay. Yep.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Jess, thank you.
Through the chair. Implementation of the Mackay Reserve Master Plan and those particular items will form part of future budget considerations. Those particular items are not listed in the draft 24-25 council budget.
Sorry, may
Sure.
suggest just to clarify and be completely clear, the only reason that they're not in there is because it's being considered as a holistic approach with the remainder of the Mackay Reserve Master Plan, is that correct?
Yeah, I think through the chair you could summarise it as that, Councillor Tran. So just to clarify an earlier question, there is some funding in next year's draft budget for further planning at the site, in particular the indoor stadium and dog park area, to progress it and to best position it for funding opportunities through state and federal government.
Thank you, Mr. Jett.
The next question is, are the council still planning on cutting down over 100 trees in the McIver Reserve precinct when open space and the environment were the 2 main topics that residents felt were the most important in the municipality? It seems counterproductive to cut down and replant, especially when green open space was the major thing that your constituents wanted.
Could
Mr. Jess
Mr.
could
Jess
answer
again,
that.
please?
Thank you, and through the chair. Should the development of the stadium proceed, additional trees will be planted within McIver Reserve to ensure that at least 2 to 3 trees are planted to offset any losses. A minimum of 114 trees have been identified as a net increase. The detail of any built form landscape impacts will not be resolved until the detailed design of all park elements is complete and approved by council following further community consultation.
Thank you. So we now have a question from Emma Price, and she asks, Duke Street's Community House Food Relief Program, operating from Central West Shopping Centre, is facing closure due to the lack of funding. Closure of the service would have a devastating impact on community. Its closure would leave a significant gap locally. This program provides an accessible and dignified service to over 200 people weekly. It provides access to health, nutritious and culturally appropriate food and meals to families and individuals who would otherwise go without. A request has been made for once-off council financial support to ensure it can continue to operate. What is council doing to support this service to stay open? I might hand that to...
To Mr. Lucas,
Yes.
Mr. Lucas
Director
Gosling,
Community
please.
Service.
Thank you.
Thanks, CEO, and through you, Mayor. So Council is certainly aware of the current risk to the program. It's our understanding that the food relief program was originally funded by the state government as part of COVID relief packages, and that this funding is no longer available. Whilst Council hasn't historically funded these types of programs directly, it's really a matter for the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing. However, officers have met with the manager of Duke Street Neighbourhood House, who's the submitter of tonight's question, and offered a range of supports. In addition to direct representation and advocacy to the Minister responsible, we have recommended that the Neighbourhood House reach out to the local state members for support. Council has received the funding submission as mentioned, which will be considered as part of the 2024-25 budget. In the meantime, however, Council will deploy some of the Regional Assessment Service staff to the program to determine who may be referred into the Commonwealth-funded Home Care Packages program, for which food supply is an allowable service. Council is also deep into setting up a food security network comprised of services offering a material support to the community, for which Duke Street will be a part of. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Randall has the next question, and Mr Randall asks, Mackay Reserve Master Plan. Has a funding strategy been developed to progress all elements of the Mackay Master Plan, and if so, what is it? And why is the only element of that master plan, in brackets, aside from associated soccer pavilion upgrades, that is referenced in the 24-25 budget, the indoor stadium?
Mr Jett, please.
Thank you, CEO, through the chair. Council officers are continually attempting at identifying grant opportunities through state and government to assist in developing plans such as Mackay Reserve Master Plan. Additionally, some items within the master plan will be developed as part of Council's annual renewal budgets, such as tree planting, irrigation upgrades and park infrastructure as examples. Those budget lines do not necessarily specifically mention Mackay Reserve, however they are allocated across multiple open spaces, including Mackay Reserve.
And the second question from Mr Randall is, why is Council proposing to spend $321,000 on a detailed design for an indoor court at Mackay when no business case has yet been developed or approved? Is this in addition to schematic design work for this project? Mr Jess.
Thank you, and through the chair. The $321,000 proposed budget allocation for 24-25 is in fact for further planning and design, which may include financial modelling and business planning for the indoor stadium to best position Council to attract funding for the project. But the description of detailed design is actually an error, apologies, and will be adjusted prior to Council's adoption of the budget.
And the third question is, what is the reason behind the apparent discrepancy in Council's 24-25 proposed budget allocations for the Mackay Indoor Stadium between $321,000 for detailed design work on page 64 of 133 and $800,000 in brackets referred to as schematic design on page 130 of 133 of the budget document? Similarly, the discrepancy between $300,000 for soccer club change rooms, P64 133, and $1,000,048, P72 133.
Thank you, CEO. Through the chair. The budget allocations noted on page 130 refer to projects from the 23-24 current financial year. As stated, the budget allocation of $321,000 is for further planning and design of the indoor stadium and dog park upgrade area. The allocation of $1.048 million for the female-friendly change rooms is for design and construction of facilities through a Westgate Tunnel project grant awarded to the Yarraville Glory Football Club, and that project is being delivered by Council.
We now have three questions from Sharon Schwab. The first is, will anything be spent by Council on tree planting at Mackay Reserve in either the 23-24 financial year or the 24-25 financial year? If yes, what and when? If no, why not? Again, Director Infrastructure.
Thank you, CEO. Through the chair. There is no planned tree planting for Mackay Reserve in the current or next financial year. And as alluded to earlier, tree planting would occur when landscape designs are finalised and budget for implementation is approved in future budgets.
The next two questions from Sharon Schwab I'm going to read out together because they have one answer. So will anything be spent by this Council on an outdoor highball court at Mackay Reserve in either 23-24 financial year or 24-25 financial year? If yes, what and when? If no, why not? And the third one, will anything be spent by Council on a community garden at Mackay Reserve in either the 23-24 financial year or the 24-25 financial year? If yes, what and when? If no, why not? And again, the Director of Infrastructure.
Thank you, through the chair. So the master plan does not identify an outdoor highball court, nor does it identify a community garden, and there is no intent to implement these projects.
Mayor, Council has received several further questions relating to Mackay Reserve, and as per Governance Rule 52.9, these questions have been grouped with a single response provided.
You go ahead.
So if I read them out
Thank
and
you.
give the
Yeah.
response. So the first is Hazel Roberts, who asked the following questions. Will anything be spent by Council on playground upgrades at Mackay Reserve in either 23-24 financial year or the 24-25 financial year? If yes, what and when? If no, why not? Number 2, will anything be spent by this council on standalone toilets, in brackets, ones that are accessible 24 hours a day, close brackets, at Mackay Reserve in either the 23-24 financial year or the 24-25 financial year? If yes, what and when? If no, why not? Number 3, will anything be spent by council on sports field drainage at Mackay Reserve in either the 23-24 financial year or the 24-25 financial year? If yes, what and when? If no, why not? And then we have questions from, I think it's either Liz O'Farrell or Lisa O'Farrell. I was recognised as Liz here, so I'll keep with Liz. So she asks 3 questions. The first one is, will anything be spent on this council, be spent by this council on pedestrian lighting at Mackay Reserve in either the 23-24 financial year or the 24-25 financial year? If yes, what and when? If no, why not? Number 2, will anything be spent by council on dog park improvements at Mackay Reserve in either 23-24 financial year or the 24-25 financial year? If yes, what and when? If no, why not? Number 3, will anything be spent by this council on urban forest and native plantings at Mackay Reserve in either 23-24 financial year or the 24-25 financial year? If yes, what and when? If no, why not?
Okay, CEO, would you like to, Mr. Jeff, would you like to answer that? Thank you.
Through the chair. So there is no planned budget for those particular items in the current or next financial year in draft budget. But I'd just like to clarify that master plans are, and we have said this before, high-level documents that have a whole list of projects in them. We have multiple plans across the city to implement, and they are considered over a long-term plan in terms of being delivered through capital works programs. And the next stage for these items would be conceptual, schematic, then detailed design, and then for construction for consideration by council in future budgets.
Thank you, Mr. Jeff. Is there any more question?
That's our
CEO?
final question.
Okay, I declare the public question time closed. Thank you. Now, confirmation of the council's minute. Agenda item 6.1, confirmation of the minute of council meeting on the 19th of March 2024. Can I call for the councillor to move that minute on the 18th of March 2024 to be confirmed? Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Your Worship. Councillors, I move that the council confirms the minutes of the council meeting held on 19th March 2024. I commend this motion to you.
Thank you. Can I call for the councillor to second the motion, second the minute, motion? Thank you. Councillor Thomas? Are there any question or point of clarification, councillor? Would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Formally moved.
Thank you. Would the second would like to speak to the motion? For the motion?
Formally second.
Okay. Any speaker for the motion? Any speaks against the motion? Now I would like to move the motion to the vote. All those in favour? All those again, the motion is carried. The agenda number item 7.1, noted the confirmation minute of the Audit and Risk Committee, 19th of September 2023. Can I call for the council to move the motion in regard to the item 7.1? Councillor Clark?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Councillors, I move that the council notes the confirmed minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held 19th September 2023.
2024?
It should be 20...
September
September
2023.
last year.
September 2023,
Right.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Not September yet.
It says
It's last year.
It's last
last
year.
year.
The audit
Yeah.
this committee last year. Yep.
We've had a couple,
fine.
at least one since. I commend the motion to you.
Okay. Right. Could I call the councillor to second the motion? Councillor Thomas? Are there any questions upon the clarification, councillor? Would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Formally moved, Your
Would the
Worship.
second would like to speak to the motion?
Formally second.
Are there any speaker for the motion?
Yeah.
Anyone speak for against the motion? Now I would put the motion to the
All right.
vote. All those in favour? All those against? I declare the motion is carried.
Oh, then, yeah, we keep going.
Agenda, item 7.2, noting the confirmation of the minute of the Audit and Risk Committee on the 14th of November 2023. Can I call for council that I move the motion in regard to this agenda 7.2? Councillor Clark.
Let's just get this done. Yes, Your Worship, councils, I move that the council notes the confirmed minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held 14 November 2023. I commend the motion to you.
Thank you. Could I have a second? Councillor Crawford. Okay, second. Are there any questions upon the clarification? Would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Formally moved, Your Worship.
Would the second would like to speak to the motion?
Formally seconded.
Okay. Are there any speaker for the motion? Any speak for or against the motion? Now, I would the motion to the vote. Are those in favour? Are those against? No, again, I declare the motion is carried. Petition. Advice, councillor, there are any no petition to be tabled at the meeting tonight. Now, the suspension of the standing order, I acknowledge of the passing of let Twentyman OAM. Could I call for the councillor to move a motion to suspending standing order to enable the council to acknowledge the passing of Les Twentyman? Could I call for the council to second that? Okay. Councillor Clark?
Move the
Move.
motion.
Well, to move that, sorry, the second to the motion. Okay, Councillor Anthony. So, would anyone would like to? Sorry, the motion is carried. Is that a?
No,
can I have
we
a
all
motion?
got
We need to
a vote.
I think Councillor Clark's
Speak to the
moving
motion.
it. Yeah.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yes, I'd like to move that we suspend standing orders to acknowledge one of the finest citizens that this city has ever had and acknowledge his passing, Les Twentyman.
Thank you. Would anyone speak to the motion?
We would like to speak to the motion.
No. That's
Do we have a second?
next.
I second. Yes, yeah,
Uh-huh.
Councillor Trent and
Now we'll
second.
Vote.
vote
So, yeah, voting.
now.
Put the motion to
Could I
suspend
put in
standing orders. Yeah.
Could I put a motion to suspending the order? All in favour? Okay,
Clear the motion.
so the motion carries. So
Very good.
now, would you like to, would you like to say anything?
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillors.
Can I just, before you make your speech, could I just acknowledge that Mrs. Sheree Kun, that's Mr. Les Twentyman's wife here tonight, and also Mr. Paul, is a director from the Les Twentyman Foundation, onto here today, and some friends, supporter. And, sorry,
No,
No, no,
That's
it's a
it.
daughter.
His granddaughter is here as well.
Oh, and the granddaughter, I said, yeah.
Oh,
Sorry. The granddaughter.
lovely.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, what's her name? Lotus. Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay, thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship, councillors. It is with a very heavy heart that I formally acknowledge the passing of Les Twentyman, one of the finest, not just people, not just citizen, but one of the finest human beings I think I've ever had the honour of knowing, let alone working with. I want to acknowledge Sheree, his wife, Paul, who's the chair, or chief executive, correct me if I'm wrong, of the Les Twentyman Foundation. Thank you. And Lotus as the granddaughter. Les's passing, passing is an inevitable part of our existence, part of the universe. But we've lost an absolute hero with the passing of Les Twentyman, a man who gave a lifetime's commitment to some of the most troubled youth that this city has ever seen. Youth that their life trajectory was on an antisocial trajectory, whose future was guaranteed of being in either the youth justice system or the criminal justice system as they graduate to adults. Les was there. He moved these people from an antisocial trajectory to a pro-social life trajectory. You know, I'd hate to put this in hard parlance, councillors, of dollars and cents, but what Les did, apart from qualitatively changing the lives of so many people, all the way to his end. I was speaking to Les not a fortnight prior to his passing, asking him about what opportunities there might be for a young bloke that I was working with. I work clinically as in mental health, as a mental health occupational therapist, and I was dealing with someone who's had real addiction issues. And this guy has really changed his life trajectory, and I thought, who do I speak to get this guy further up the ladder, further off this lifestyle of taking benzodiazepam writ large? Because he wanted to talk to others. He wanted to show others that there was another way. And there was one name that immediately sprang to mind, and there was one bloke I immediately called, and that was Les Twentyman. Immediately. And Les was on it. Les was looking to help this bloke out right from the word go. 2 weeks prior to his passing. You know, Christmas after Christmas we spent down at Edgewater, you know, doing breakfasts, doing Christmas for the disadvantaged. You know, when many of us, most of us, tucked up, you know, having Christmas breakfast, Christmas lunch. There's Les, and I want to acknowledge Paul, Dougie Hawkins, Fred Madden, who was down there, my son, Lachlan Clark, Mary Dowling, so many others, Bevo from the Dogs Footy Club. He was there. Continually. And I could never understand where it came from. But it was nothing more than a commitment to do something good, to leave behind a little bit that was better than what it was. You know, if we had more people like Les Twentyman, this world would be a much, much better place. Cherie, you've lost a life partner. Hard living with a hero. Yeah, he was on call all the time, But he was a legend. Victorian of the Year. We had a state funeral for him. I was there with the who worshipped the mayor only last Tuesday. And it was a great event. Everyone was there. But the one thing, and I got to say, the two people in my world that have made a difference to me, Father Bob Maguire and Les Twentyman. And I tell you, I work with youth in the mental health sphere. And if I could leave just a fraction behind of what Les has done, I'll be pleased. Because he's made a difference. He's made lives change. Your Worship, I can only commend our acknowledgement of Les Twentyman to you, to all members here this evening, to his family, to the Les Twentyman Foundation. Thank you so much, Cherie, Otis, all involved. When they say what a guy with Les Twentyman, they weren't joking. What a guy. Thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Does anyone have a... Yeah, Councillor Trent.
I'm not going to pretend to know Les as well as Councillor Clark would. Far from. But I will say though that I only had the fortune of meeting Les thanks to Councillor Clark. Indeed, down in Edgewater one really fortunate morning when Clarkie called me and said, "You got to come down to Edgewater because I'm here with Les Twentyman and I'm here with who was with us? Dr. Oh God.
Oh, the
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
the orthopaedic surgeon. Who's the chair? David Young.
I believe so. I think that sounds about right. And the first thing that Les said to me was, "You ever seen that statue outside the Victoria Police Station? The one that faces the City Council?" "Yeah, I put it there.
Yeah.
I put it there to teach council a lesson." And that was the first impression I ever had of Les. It wasn't a nasty impression. If anything, it was probably the best impression I could have of anybody. Someone who was unapologetic for what he did, knew what he meant to the community, and better yet, knew the impact his work had on the community. Whilst I like to say I'm still young, and I appreciate Liz's work as someone in that space. I know that there are many youths out there, friends of mine who I won't mention, who have come through some tough times because of Liz. I'll keep it brief, I'll keep it short. We've lost a fantastic human being. You've lost a husband and you've lost a grandfather. Certainly put it. We appreciate you, Liz, and we honour you tonight. I believe, Councillor Lamb, you will honour even better than I will tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Trent. I was shocked when I heard that news on that day. I just could not believe that. I just talked to Paul and I said, how did that happen? I just, I've been very proud to know Les Twentyman for a number of years during my work and time as a councillor. Les was a dedicated person and selfless man that who continually always advocating and put the youth need before his own. And I always admire him. He's a very strong advocate for the community, particularly the young and the voiceless. Les is a local hero. I mean, he's in Braybrook. He's in this area. He's brought up in this area. And he's a role model for many Australians. I really admire him all the time and respect. And when I got elected as mayor this term, I met him, we were having function again, 2018. But this time, Paul and Les come and meet me, and we're talking about how can we support the association, the foundation. And I'm thinking, getting to the charity organisation involved and just invite him to come one of the lunch on Sunday at the temple, and only that 1 hour. And we say so many people come and they get telling them, come back. I didn't bring my money, but come back. Please do that. So as people know that his work and they genuinely want to support all the time, regardless where they're coming from, because he worked tirelessly for the community. So I'm really sorry that we not only lost the great leader, lost the husband, the grandfather, and the leader, and Greg, my friend, I own way, and I will be supporting his association. It's ongoing when I could. I really was honored to be invited to remember of the life of Les last week, Tuesday, with Deputy Mayor Councillor Clark. That still could not believe it. It's how many people, Australian and Victorian, is come and really and acknowledge his contribution to the Australian, to young people and to Victorians. So he's a great loss, and we will miss him. So my heartfelt condolence to the Les, to Cherie, and the association, Paul, and many people who really work with him, a friend, supporter. So, well for Les Twentyman, what I will say.
Your Worship, can I just, one last thing?
Yeah.
And and I know Councillor Tran, who was at the end of Les's rant on this. This is a message for everyone out there. Les was really clear about trying to eradicate knife culture. You know, knives take lives. And the sculpture that Councillor Tran speaks to, that sits opposite the town hall on the grounds of the Footscray police station, that's made out of the knives that were handed in as part of an amnesty. All the way through his work, particularly in the later stages of his life, he was really clear to me about how knife culture had to change. Enough. So, you know, on behalf of Les Twentyman, can I ask the youths and anyone else who carries a knife, please put it away, leave it, get rid of it. Knives destroy lives, and that was the mantra that Les Twentyman pushed all the way to his grave. So please, if there's one message that I'd like us all to take away, is understand Les's view. Knives destroy lives. Just don't carry them. Please. For your own sake and for the sake of those who could be a victim. Please don't do it. Thanks, Cherie.
Okay, thank you.
Paul, guys.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. So now the resumption of the standing order. Could I call for Councillor to move the motion to resume standing order? Councillor Tran. Can I call for the second, Councillor Clark? Could I put a motion to the vote? It was in favour. Thank you. I declare the motion is carried. So the changing order of business within the consent of the council, I wish to propose a change to the order of the business in accordance with the clause 19 of the council governance rule. Councillor, do I have your consent to bring agenda item 10.2, not a motion, 2024-06, Les Twentyman Youth Leadership Award, and agenda item 10.1, not a motion, 2024-05 Tibetan Community Australia Forward as a next two item of the business. Could I have the consent? Thank you, Councillor. So,
All councillors?
Yeah.
Yep.
We have to,
Yep.
we need to.
Yeah,
Somebody
Councillor,
vote.
yeah, all in favour?
Just need to indicate.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So, okay, the item 10.2, not to the motion, 2024-06 Les Twentyman Leadership Award. As a proposal of this noted motion, I will vacate the chair in accordance with the clause 2410 of the council governance rule to allow me to move this motion. We are now invite Deputy Mayor to assume the chair. Councillor Clark, would you like to come?
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. I need you. You need that? You're done?
No, all good.
Yeah, okay, good. a little motion.
Thank you, Worship. Councillors? Once you settled, Your Worship. Okay. I'll now call on Councillor Lamb, who Worship the Mayor, to move a motion in regard to agenda item 10.2.
Yep.
Councillor Lamb.
Okay, thank you. Okay. My motion that council, number one, extended Maribyrnong City Council's motion of condolence to the Twentyman's family on the passing of Les Twentyman. Number two, acknowledge Les Twentyman's lifelong dedication to helping those in need and his profound influences and contribution to our community, possibly changing the life of thousands of young Victorians and their families. And number three, in recognition of point two, rename the annual Civics Youth Leadership Award the Les Twentyman Youth Leadership Award to honor and commemorate Les Twentyman's contribution to the Maribyrnong community.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'll call on a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Tran. Councillor Tran. Sorry. Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would
Doing
like
well
to,
here tonight.
as I indicated before, Les Twentyman is the well-deserved to acknowledge his long life dedication to all people, particularly young people. And this is our city award, yearly award from the council, is dedicated to the Les Twentyman award. So I think that is very, to acknowledge that's his work for the community, for the young people, and for the whole, people who's needed. And every year we do have that, and I think I really I support that, and hope councillor to support me to accept that as a Les Twentyman award, rather than youth award for the yearly of his work.
Thanks, Your Worship. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Only in brief, Chair. In short, the Youth Civic Award acknowledges, for those who apply for the award, excellence is not probably the best word for it. Rather, it acknowledges contributions that the youth have made to our community. Les by no means was young forever, but he will forever be immortalised as someone who continues to be a large contributing factor to the city of Maribyrnong. It's a small civic award, and that's completely acknowledged by all the councillors here. But we hope that in some way this keeps Les in the memories of the citizens of the city of Maribyrnong. Indeed, it will for me, and it will for all the councillors sitting in council tonight and those councillors to come. I hope that the many youth that come through and who are successful in receiving the future award have a good understanding of who Les was, not just in passing, but who he was in life as well. Not just the foundation, but the man, because that's exactly why we put this award as what it is. It acknowledges who the person was, not just who the foundation is. And we hope to honour him as best as we can. The City of Maribyrnong hopes to honour him as best as we can.
Thanks, Councillor Tran. That's it. Further speakers for the motion?
Can I say add one more word?
Under normal circumstances, however, I will grant licence. Yes, ma'am.
I think tonight the Les Twentyman, his spirit, even he's not here, but his spirit speak with us tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Further speakers for the motion? Speakers again? For Councillor O'Hara.
Just briefly, I think the tribute's already made, done very well, I think, in highlighting the role of Les. Even though he became obviously a national personality, he was quintessentially a Westie, and very much representative of everything that I've always thought is beautiful about the West. The only thing I wanted to add was more that perhaps as also as additional tribute, in the future when we open the newly renovated town hall, we can think about some potential naming of a room or something of that sort, to, if you like, just continue his memory, that whole sort of quintessential, Western suburbs. I'd like it to be in some way immortalised in, our newly renovated town hall, if possible, when we consider those things.
Brilliant idea, Councillor O'Hara. Outstanding.
I think there's a potential stadium to be built that might have.
Could be called the Les Twentyman Stadium.
I don't know. Maybe a director might think about it.
I think that needs to be taken on board in the very first instance. I think hearing what Councillor O'Hara has said with the new civic hub, that one of the meeting rooms, Councillor O'Hara, is what you're alluding to very specifically. I think that that too would be a great tribute to what is an absolute hero of our community, a brooker. Boy out of Braybrook, what do you reckon? Just up the line. And he went to Braybrook High, didn't he? One of the cool kids. That just meant he didn't go to school often enough. He created more trouble than he was worth. They should have taken a stick to him. Those were the days. He was terrific. Sorry, I beg your pardon, Chetty's here. Speakers against the motion. Further speakers for the motion. Before I put the motion, I'm just going to put my 2 bobs worth in here again. Look, I love Les. What a bloke. The Mouth That Roared. That was his book. You get to stand. One of the great things about being a councillor, and what I say to anyone who's prepared to listen, if you get onto council, one of the things you get to do is you get to stand in the shadow of absolute giants. You get to meet these people, you get to, draw on their experiences, their inspiration, and that's what I managed to do with Les. I knew Les years before I came on council, but when I actually came on council, I saw the extent of what he had done. The foundation, the Les Twentyman Foundation, councillors, is a multi-million-dollar foundation that has one remit, and that is to help the youth of this community, of this state, of this country. We need to see an expansion of the Les Twentyman Foundation so it actually has a national profile. I call on the federal government to consider this very carefully. Let the legacy of Les Twentyman live on, not just in this municipality, not just in this state, but in this nation. Councillors, we have a motion before us. All those in favour? All those opposed? The motion's carried. Cherie, guys, thank you so much. I'll call on Councillor Lamb to resume the chair. Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor. Cherie and Paul and Lola, if you want to leave, you happy, you can leave now if you want. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. Let's say goodbye.
Yeah. If we, could we formally perhaps just
A 3-minute break?
Yeah, 3-minute break.
Just ask, would councillors be happy to have a
Are you
3-minute
happy to have a
break?
3-minute break as you
Yep.
say goodbye to the family?
Yep.
Is it
Yep.
okay? Thank you.
Moved,
All those
seconded,
Move.
second.
Could I have everybody to move?
seconded,
Seconded.
all in favour?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Sorry. Alan,
You're right, mate.
Thank you. Now, agenda item 10.1. Are you okay? Noted a motion 2024/05 Tibetan Community Australia. I call for the Councillor Crawford to move a motion in regarding to agenda item 10.1.
Thank you, Mayor. The Council, one, notes the request from the Tibetan Community Australia, Victoria Incorporated, and the Australia Tibet Council to support efforts to recognise the ongoing plight of the Tibetan people. Two, notes that the Tibetan community is an important part of the multicultural fabric of the Maribyrnong municipality. And three, resolves to fly the Tibetan flag each year on March 10 in support of Uprising Day as a symbol of courage, resilience and hope.
Okay. Right. Could I call for Councillor to second the motion? Councillor Thomas? Are there any questions or point of clarification, Councillor? Would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. So, councillors, I'm sure you're all basically aware of the situation in Tibet. I'm certainly not claiming to be an expert on the situation, but the request has come to me from a local resident, Tenzin, who's in the gallery tonight, so thank you for joining us, Tenzin, on behalf of our local Tibetan community. Essentially, this is a small community but a proud community. They have given us a very simple request, and that's to raise their flag each year as an opportunity to express their freedom to speech, essentially. And it's essential for us, important I guess, to keep this in perspective. Sometimes here in local government we're criticised of interfering in international affairs. Well, we're not looking to change international governments, we're not advocating or anything like that. All we're doing is simply allowing our residents the opportunity to have that freedom of speech. We allow the same thing to our Vietnamese community, again another proud community within Maribyrnong. And we pride ourselves on our democracy, our opportunity to be able to say what we believe. I feel we need to afford this to all parts of our community, or otherwise we're essentially no better than other governments around the world. So, councillors, this is important for our local Tibetan community, but it's also, I believe, important for furthering the strength of the diversity in our community. So I urge you to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Crawford. Would the second would like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and thanks, Tenzin, for bringing this to councillors and for also being patient, because we know that there was a request made earlier in the year, and for some reason we didn't get to it by the 10th of March. So we're this is in part trying to sort of rectify that, and so that in the future, hopefully, we don't miss that day, the Uprising Day. Yeah, I think, what Councillor Crawford has said, we've got Tibetan Australians living in Maribyrnong. They've fled their homeland for the reasons that many other of our people who are from our refugee community have, for human rights abuses and threats of imprisonment. That's still happening in Tibet, as we know. We've welcomed Tibetans. They continue to contribute to a healthy and thriving multicultural community, not just in Maribyrnong, but across the country. And I think, what I think is a very small act of solidarity with Tibetan Australians is just a gesture that we can afford to do as a council to sort of help the community to remember and reflect on their past history, but also to sort of celebrate their cultural history and their sort of residence, I guess, as part of the Australian community, and their residence and their membership and communal part of the Maribyrnong community as well. So I fully support the motion.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Are there any speakers for the motion? Councillor Hogier?
Just briefly, when people come, or certainly when I came to Australia, when you come here as a refugee, you live a forever torn life, and you're constantly, thinking about your homeland. And a flag is an important, obviously, symbol of that, but in particular can be, as it is in the case of Tibet, a symbol of the struggles, that have forced people here. And I think that is, if we're going to have and celebrate a genuine, authentic multiculturalism in this country, recognising that, celebrating that, incorporating that, the life that's always sort of torn when you're here as a refugee between two cultures, two languages, or maybe more languages. I think recognising that, incorporating that is what makes multiculturalism authentic. It's not just about the restaurants that people set up when they arrive here. So I'm very supportive of us doing this. I would just, maybe it's probably too late, but I did wonder whether maybe in that third point we could just add a comma so basically in recognition of something like and in recognition of the Human Rights Council upholds and promotes in our community, because I think that's sort of makes it clearer why we're doing this too as a council, because we do uphold human rights and we promote human rights. We do it actually in every motion.
Yeah.
So maybe adding that if possible, but
I'd be happy to accept it.
Mm-hmm. Do we need to move it again? Yes.
Do we just add something to it? Or?
If as the mover, Councillor Crawford, would like to just reiterate what you would like, and we can certainly document that.
What was that?
comma, and in recognition of the Human Rights Council upholds and promotes in our community. Point 3.
Upholds.
Upholds and promotes in our community. I know it makes it a long sentence, but the comma's there.
Sorry, is it Human Rights Council in recognition of
The Human Rights Council
Rights?
upholds and
Human
promotes in our
rights,
community.
that
Sorry?
council maybe. It's not the
Yeah,
Human
it
Rights
might not.
Council. It's
Yeah, Human Rights, so lowercase.
Yeah, maybe that
Yeah,
reads
Human
better.
Rights. Yeah, okay. Because I was thinking, are we the Human Rights Council?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, so do you have to vote again?
No,
Governor,
I think if
is that
the
okay?
mover is
You still need a seconder for
Yeah,
motion.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank
So
you.
you need another seconder.
the second is.
Oh, I'm happy
Okay,
with that.
so the Councillor Crawford, happy with
Yep.
that? Yeah, okay, so
Yep.
seconded?
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any speaker for the motion? Any speaker against the motion? Okay, now I put the motion into the vote. All those in favour? All those against? So, as we have 3 by 3, it's tie vote. In accordance with the clause 58 of the council governance rule, in the event of the tie vote, the chair must exercise a casting vote. So I am therefore exercising my casting vote in opposition to the motion, and I would have to put my against the motion. So that means the motion is lost. So, the motion is lost.
We want
No
to
one
number one?
speaker. Pardon?
Thank you. Thank you
Officer
for
on number one.
bringing that motion. And as both of you are from the Vietnam, we have going through the same tragedy in our country. But I don't understand why you against this motion. But this is your choice. Anyway, thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Agenda 9, thank you. 9.1, consideration of the proposed budget 2024 and 25. I call the councillor to move a motion in regard to agenda item 9.1. Councillor Clark?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Councillors, I move that Council 1 approves in principle the proposed budget 2024-2025. 2, exhibits the proposed budget 2024-2025, invites feedback on the proposed budget and hears any person who has requested to be heard in support of the formal feedback on the proposed budget at a meeting to be held on 27 May 2024 at the Community Hall, Braybrook Hub, 107 to 139 Churchill Avenue, Braybrook. 3, notes the proposed budget 2024-2025 includes A, passing through the rate cap of 2.75%, which is set by the Victorian Government. B, a municipal charge of $20 for each rateable property for the rating period. C, no increase in waste service charges. D, rates relief to specified ratepayers. E, draws down of 6.180 million from the open space reserve for open space improvements. F, new capital works investments of 80.132 million to maintain, redevelop and improve services and assets. 4, note a report on public submissions and recommendations to adopt the proposed budget will be considered at the council meeting on 18 June 2024. Councillors, I commend the motion to you.
Thank you. Could I call that councillor for second the motion? Councillor, I have any councillor for second the motion?
Just second.
Councillor Tran? Are there any question or point of clarification, councillor? Would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Just briefly, councillors, last year we asked the community to share their thoughts on the service priorities to help develop and inform the proposed budget for the forthcoming financial year. And in proposing the 2024-2025 budget, we've kept the community priorities top of mind, specifically open space, sustainability, environment, transport infrastructure, city amenity, safety, health and well-being and recreation. The budget, councillors, is proposing some 80.132 million as part of the capital program to maintain and develop and improve services and assets. So we actually do have fit-for-purpose infrastructure, and that is critical. A quarter of the budget, some in excess of 21 million, is going to be spent on roads and footpaths. 6 million is going to be spent on the completion of Cowper Street. And that upgrade is really underway now. Just under $1 million is being proposed to be spent on bicycle paths. I'd be hopeful in the 25-26 budget that we can see an improvement on that. But we're still trying to keep the funding on bicycle infrastructure at minimal, around $1 million per annum. You know, we are looking at $6.45 million to improve the infrastructure around Joseph's Road. And this is very specifically for the first phase, which has begun, which will begin, in fact, in the final quarter of the 2023-24 financial year. Close on, I've got to say here, councillors, 17 million is going into our parks and gardens. You know, 6 million or 8.6 million for sports and recreation, public realm and street upgrades, streetscape upgrades, some 4.6 million. We're looking at $5 million for Shorten Reserve, and I've got to say here, councillors, this is supported by, and we do thank the state government here for their contribution. And just over $1 million is going into Hanson Reserve to support the delivery of a new pavilion as well as flood lighting. Initial funding is also proposed to support the implementation of the new streetscape and drainage along Bunbury Street. We're looking at improving the treescape along what is a glorious boulevard. This very much is in keeping with our commitment to maintaining what is a key civic heritage road. You know, we can't speak enough about our history, and places like Bunbury Street and its maintenance are critical to this city. In line with our aspirations for the greening of the city generally, and this speaks to some of the questions that were in fact asked earlier, we're looking at improving our investment in sustainability with $1 million being proposed for additional tree planting and some $350,000 for new solar car park at Braybrook Community Hub. Again, this is all about renewables, but it's also about cleaning, greening and having the canopy necessary for our city. Additionally, 20 million is going to be included for the completion of the 3 major projects that we have going in the city today, specifically the Civic Community Hub, some $11 million. The proposed budget, I've got to say here, councillors, is premised on the 2.75% increase in total rates and revenue. And this is in line with the state government cap. We're doing what we possibly can, councillors, to relieve the rate burden, to relieve the financial burden of our community. And it's in that context, councillors, our municipal charge sits still at $20 only. And I believe that that's the lowest in the state. We have no increase in our waste service charges, as well as continuing to provide rate relief for some rate payers, including pensioners and residents affected by the 2022 flood events, whose dwellings were and remain in need of repair. We're also having to draw down some $6 million odd from our open space reserve. And please be clear, this is needed for our ongoing open space improvement. We have a commitment to open space, we have a commitment to greening, we have a commitment to canopy in this city. Councillors, community feedback is proposed, and it's important that those who wish to comment on the budget engage in the process through the portal of Your City, Your Voice, or providing written submissions. Overall, councillors, this is a socially, financially and environmentally sustainable and responsible budget, which I've got to say reflects incredibly efficient and effective allocation of resources in light of remarkably challenging economic times. This is a balanced budget. To that end, I want to formally acknowledge Mr. Mark Connor, our Director of Finances, and the Executive Director, Lisa King. Fantastic job. Unlike a lot of other jurisdictions in this state and in this country, our borrowings are so low. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Connor, they're only 7% of what is recommended as appropriate levels of borrowings according to VARGO, the Victorian Auditor General. This is a wonderful thing, councillors, but it's not achieved without the hard work of our executive directors, our directors and all members of our staff. And again, to that end, I want to formally acknowledge our Chief Executive. Thank you so much, Ms. Haddock. Great job. Councillors, we have a budget proposal before us. It's in principle. I commend the motion to you.
Thank you. Councillor Clark, with the second, I would like to speak to the motion.
And then briefly, Chair, the report speaks for itself, quite honestly. It is quite concise, clear to read, and conveys the information which Council wishes to convey quite concisely. I'll quickly refer to pages 78 through to 80 in the report. These are simple summaries of the capital works that have been undertaken in the respective areas of the City of Maribyrnong. For residents who are looking through this report, you'll see that the majority of these pertain to council essentials, roads and rates. Roads, rates, and in this case, a lot of the roads and parks as well, infrastructure is getting done up. You'll see there are works in the, I'll just go through them one by one, the River Ward, you see the major works, of course, the Mac Splash Park, as well as Pipe Makers Park and the Quarry Park New Park landscape works. Down in Stony Creek, we've got Hanson Reserve, Rep West Footscray and Children Reserve, which we are excited about, especially given the announcements from the previous year. Then that also includes the flood lighting for Hanson Reserve. And you'll see down in Yarraville, or the Yarraville Ward, that's the Joseph Road Public Realm Works, as well as Carp Street, Francis Street, and the much beloved Footscray True Club Pavilion. Again, this is going out for community consultation, community review. As Councillor Crawford noted earlier in the meeting, this is the second opportunity for the community members to give some feedback, even though, again, as Councillor Crawford noted, it's the 11th hour. It doesn't preclude anyone from giving any feedback, and all feedback is appreciated and is taken into consideration in finalising the 24-25 budget. But I commend the report and I commend the motion to you.
Nice work.
Okay, thank you. Are there any speaker for the motion? Are there any speaker against the motion? Now I put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? So I declare the motion is carried. Agenda item 9.2, Maribyrnong Social Justice Framework 2023 to 2033. Can I call the councillor to move the motion in regard to this item 9.2? Any councillor? Councillor Trent?
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair, that Council 1 notes the community consultation process undertaken on the draft Social Justice Framework 2023-2033, and 2 endorses the Maribyrnong Social Justice Framework 2023-2033 as shown at attachment 1.
Thank you. Can I call for councillor to second the motion? Councillor Hopkins. Are there any questions upon the clarification, councillor? Would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Indeed, Mayor. Whilst I commend the report in its entirety, I note probably 1 or 2 things. The first thing is where we see in our key discussions, the small number of people who have provided feedback in the second consultation process. I note the key word is that it's a second consultation process. The initial consultation process, Mr. Gosling, please correct me if I'm wrong, was approximately how many individuals that provide their feedback in the initial consultation?
I believe, I'll have to double check, Councillor, but I think it was 261 people.
Yeah, I believe that sounds about right to me as well. Thank you, Mr. Gosling. So from that consultation, the initial consultation, it appears to Council that was quite comprehensive, and this second one is in order to capture those who may have been missed in the initial consultation process. Nonetheless, we still take, again, everything into consideration and appreciate all the feedback provided through to Council. You'll note that if in the guide or this particular draft proposed social justice framework, there are sort of 6 key themes or principles that Council seeks to abide by. And then there's a 7th one that's included. Now you know it's the 7th one because when you look at the report, the emblem sticks out a little clearer than the other 6. And that final one was a contribution made by Councillor Kera and by the fellow councillors, and that is interculturalism, that final component there. That seeks to bring the other 6 together as well as it can into one, correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Kera, one more holistic approach to all this. I reckon that's how I would word it. But that doesn't preclude from the fact that Council seeks, not just in this report, but in all of our motions, that is the Council's motions and any other strategies and frameworks put together by Council staff, seeks to ensure that Council upholds one of our core duties, and that is to ensure that our community is safe, our community members feel included, and more importantly than ever, that our approaches going forward continue to consider the ever-changing landscape of our city. I think that is the key focus here. But I endorse the report entirely, Chair.
Thank you. Now, would the second would like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, really mostly to just, I suppose, say a little bit more about the purpose of the document. As stated there, as a framework, really, more than anything else, a lens through which Council can interrogate and explore its own policies and policy development processes. And I think it's a useful addition in that regard to, in particular, I suppose, the Victorian Human Rights Charter, which remains a sort of lens to across the local government area, as it does in all state, regulatory bodies and so forth. But I think the social justice lens adds to that, and I think is really, it's also sort of a bit symbolic for me of the some of the heritage, I suppose, of Maribyrnong Council and Maribyrnong local government and our community, really, and the importance that social justice has played in this community in terms of the culture and the lived experience of our residents. So yeah, just to say that that's the purpose, really, more than anything else. But certainly, I would encourage people to have a read of it.
Okay, thank you. Any speaker for the motion? Any speaker against the motion? Now I put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? So the declared motion is carried. Now, agenda item 9.3, draft fare access and policy. I call for the councillor to move the motion in regard to agenda item 9.3. Councillor Clark?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Councillors, I move that Council endorses the release of the draft fair access policy and draft fair access policy action plan for community comment.
Thank you. Can I call that councillor second the motion?
Councillor Tran.
Councillor Thomas? Are there any questions upon the clarification, councillor? Would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Yeah,
I think there's a question.
Oh, sorry, question, councillor Thomas?
Just wonder if one of the officers can just confirm that there was a gender impact assessment done. I couldn't quite work out from the report whether we had it on the list or whether we'd already done the gender impact assessment against the policy.
Director, is it Lucas, is it?
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Councillor Thomas.
I haven't answered them both.
I can confirm that that gender impact assessment was done. Yes.
It was done. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the point of clarification already to clarify, would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Councillors, you know, of late, we've seen in jurisdictions such as Moree, Anala, Logan, Dubbo, we've seen it with the lockdown, curfews in Alice Springs, the need to give youth the opportunity to redirect their energies from antisocial behaviour to pro-social behaviour. But implicit within that particular agenda, to give youth an alternate pathway, a structured pathway, what we need to understand is that women are unrepresented in the area of organised sport. Those jurisdictions I spoke to, councillors, you had community leaders saying kids don't have enough to do. They need outlets, and they were asking for more sporting opportunities to be made available. This city, councillors, is prepared to do that. But implicit within this commitment, we know that we've got to have greater representation of females in coaching, as officials, as administrators, as board members. Because we have to do this because, quite simply, they are unrepresented when compared to the male cohort that's out there. Councillors, this particular policy agenda very much aims to give women and girls better and fairer access to community sports and infrastructure. We're aiming to deliver equitable access to publicly owned community sports infrastructure across the state, helping the level playing field for women and girls in community sport. Be clear, if girls can't find an outlet for their energies that is pro-social, quite reasonably, and many of our facilities, our institutions, our social justice, our justice institutions can attest, those women can and will find their way into nefarious activities. So we have a responsibility here. This policy, councillors, and the action plan provides very much a framework of action, that are strategic, targeted and very achievable, whilst reflecting our commitment to promoting equity, inclusion and, most important for me, social justice within our community. I very much commend this motion to you all.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Would the seconder would like to speak to the motion?
I think this is a very, well, it's probably overdue, this policy, and I did go to the launch. I think it was a launch of the government launch that council hosted some months ago, and sat with some young women who played a variety of sports, and one of them was lacrosse. I didn't know people really played lacrosse in Maribyrnong, but they were in teams. I know.
Footscray, the Footscray clubs.
I know, but I didn't know that beforehand.
Massive.
Okay, calm down.
Oh, come
please.
on, Councillor.
Thank you.
So I sat with them, and we talked about how much they enjoyed it, but they didn't just play one sport. They played a number of sports, but at some point I think they kind of got to choose. But I think the thing that I'll be most interested in seeing how it plays out is that our third kind of aspiration or objective, I'm not sure whether a principle or something, about having women and girls having access to the highest quality available and most convenient sports infrastructure at the best and most popular competition and training times. So, and locations, because that's going to be a bit of a struggle for some of our non-female residents who I think have for many, many years had exactly that kind of access. So it'll probably likely be a challenge, but I think it's the kind of conversations that we do need to have across our community around how equity plays out, not just in this area of sport, but across a whole lot of other issues. So I totally support the policy, and I hope people get on board with reading it and giving feedback. So thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering, and if this is out of order, this is out of order, and I'm prepared to accept that. However, given what was spoken to earlier about Mackay Reserve, I'm just wondering, Your Worship, if some consideration might be given to making available even temporary change rooms for particularly females at Mackay, and making available even temporary toilet and change facilities at that particular reserve. I think that might go quite some way to operationalising and enacting this particular policy agenda. I simply ask, Your Worship, that to the Chief Exec, that this...
We could certainly consider your request, Councillor Clark, and come back to councillors.
Thank you kindly. I'm sure it's in your budget.
I think we're already doing it with some pavilions, but yes.
Thank you. Appreciate your indulgence, Your Worship, Chief Exec.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. And any other speaking for the motion? Yeah, Councillor.
Just very briefly, Mayor.
Jan?
Just for those who, I know the draft policy is only around 10 pages long, but for those who do not want to go through the 10 pages, in that it is quite implicit that council will work alongside not just government bodies but also local groups, so the Western Bulldogs, of course, but also our smaller groups, so our Swifties, our Footscray Rangers, our local tennis clubs, Westgate Basketball as well, in order to ensure that whatever works are undertaken to support them in their the development of their own policies or their own leadership programs, or their teams and their scheduling, especially not just in relation to not only the female teams but also those who don't identify at all. We will work alongside those groups. It is not government centric. It is local community centric. That is the key point of this policy, policy, and we intend, or we hope to intend, to pursue that course of action as well. But I do commend in that sense.
Thank you. Are there any other speak for the motion? Councillor Hawkins.
It's more probably a question that doesn't need to be answered right now, but I'm just wondering if we're giving any consideration to, obviously this will be communicated, but I'd encourage, if possible, for us to also, as part of the communications, to have some sort of forum with all clubs, so that there's a sharing, because some clubs are already doing some of this stuff better and others maybe not, so they can share their own. So not just send out a letter and stuff.
That's a great idea, Councillor. Yep.
Thank you. Any speaker for the motion? Any speaker?
Councillor Crawford.
Councillor Crawford.
Yeah, thanks to officers for bringing this one to us. I think it's in the main a good plan to go out. The things I would like to add are that when we talk about gender equity in sport, it's not just about providing equal access to women and girls and trans people for that matter, which I'll get to in a second, with equal access to traditionally male sports and traditionally male clubs and traditionally male facilities. It's about making sure that we're offering equitable access to facilities and clubs that women, girls, trans people want to participate in. So, for example, I don't mean to pick on these sports specifically, but instead of saying, okay, women and girls, you can have access to the footy club, it's about saying, well, actually, let's make sure that we're providing an equal amount of access to netball facilities or gymnastics facilities. Equally, like I said, we do mention trans and non-binary people in this this paper, but I think we could probably do a bit more work around making sure that every single point of it is raising equity of access for them as well as for women and girls. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. Right, any speaker for the motion? I would like to say a few words in congratulating Mr. Pat Jett and his team for working to putting all together, to having the draft comments and contribution from the community. And I think for the women, I mean, nowadays that women have a more opportunity to participate in more sport and other athletic sport, while with different culture, having different type of sport. So I would like to encourage two women from all diverse culture and linguistic background and to participate in that. Not only just girl playing light sport, but girl can play football, can play netball, can play everything, that have an opportunity for them to participate in and feel confident with all levels. So, we go out there and ask the people to choose what they would like to do. And thank you again for all the hard work from the team, put all together. Thank you. Yep. Okay, any other speak again for the motion? I now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? All those again, I put the motion, I declare the motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Agenda item 9.4, draft electric vehicle charging infrastructure policy 2024. Can I call for Councillor to move a motion in regard to agenda item 9.4? Councillor Crawford.
The Council 1, note the key updates to the electric vehicle charging infrastructure policy 2024 discussed in this report shown in attachment 1. 2, endorse the commencement of community engagement. 3, note that once community engagement is complete, a further report will be presented to Council noting the outcome of the engagement and recommending next steps. And 4, note that the assessment of Council-owned sites that are suitable for the installation of public EV charging infrastructure will be carried out via an expression of interest process to identify suitable private sector partners.
Thank you. Could I call for the councillor to second the motion? Councillor Thomas. Are there any questions upon a clarification, councillor? Now, would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would. It's part of Council addressing the climate emergency that we're in. We all acknowledge that there's a lot more to be done. We need to reduce local pollution in our city, so we're not breathing it in all day, but we also need to contribute to reducing emissions globally if we're going to tackle the global crisis that is on us already. electric vehicles aren't going to solve the problem overnight, but they are a step in the right direction. We certainly have a lot of interest from our residents who are purchasing or looking to purchase electric vehicles in having ways to charge these vehicles, because unfortunately the local service stations haven't caught up with the times and still just selling petrol and diesel and aren't providing these opportunities. So council's having to try to step in and, where possible, provide alternative opportunities for people to charge their vehicles. Now, admittedly, we're looking to outsource this opportunity, but we're looking to work with a provider on council land to provide the infrastructure that will be able to service those vehicles. So I thank officers for bringing this work to us. We just launched the big charging station in the car park at Rayleigh Street, which is a great start, but this will build on that good work and provide further opportunities for residents to charge their vehicles.
Thank you, Councillor Crawford. Would the seconder would like to speak to the motion?
I guess just to add that, you know, in inner city municipalities like ours where, you know, on-street parking, you know, affects a lot of our residents, having these communal, I suppose, but private, or ones you pay for, charging stations is important so that people can, you know, make the choice. If they've got a choice to buy a car, then they can make that choice, and they do actually have somewhere to charge them, because the technology around sort of pop-up mini chargers and things in the footpaths isn't quite there yet. So yes, I'm really pleased that we're sort of getting behind this, and we've now got we're going to be rolling out a program. So
Thanks.
thanks.
Are there any speaker for the motion? Councillor Clark?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Councillors, I think the point is well made by Councillor Crawford that, look, and I think Councillor Thomas, that, you know, we're not by rights in the business of being providers of fuel sources. You know, the BP, Caltex, Ampol, all been doing that, and so many others for generations. But I think also, as has been highlighted, the time of fossil fuel is coming to a close. This council recognises the climate emergency that has been in part contributed to by the fossil fuel industry writ large. Our commitment as a local government authority to address this, what is an affront not just to us locally but to our entire species. If we don't address the climate emergency, councillors, this place can become uninhabitable. The planet can become a dead space. Have no illusions. There was times, and there have been times in the history of the world, that it quite simply could not sustain life as we know it today. Let's not get to that point. We have an opportunity in a small way. When we talk about think global, act local, this is an operationalising of that agenda. The electric vehicle charging program is a small step, but believe me, councillors, it is a step in the right direction. We will not be deterred. The focus of this council, the focus of our nation for the future is to become sustainable. We will have a commitment to renewables. We can do it in this place. Let's make those renewables available to all. Councillors, I commend the motion to you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Anyone, are there any speaker for the motion? Okay, I'd like to say a few words. I think, firstly, I would like to thank you, CEO and her team director, to working so hard for a long time to make that happen. And I'm so delighted, you know, to to inform the community who very, very positive about it, and it's you know, more need to be done, but it is at least that we have, and we'll be improving and getting more and more in the future. So this is a great policy, and I think everybody for that. The community already expressed their positive supporting it, and also would like to use it as well. So congratulations and thanks again for, you know, all your hard work.
Great job.
Thank you. Okay, any speaking against the motion? I put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? No against. I declare the motion is carried. So agenda 9.5, Art Advisory Committee appointment of member. I call for the councillor to move the motion in regard to agenda item 9.5. Could I move, this require council to be appointed now. This is the
Arts Advisory Committee.
arts, the councillor would like the recommendation, who would like to move for this Art Advisory Committee? Councillor Thomas?
Thanks. That Council 1 appoints Councillor Bernadette Thomas as the chairperson of the Arts Advisory Committee until the end of the current council term, October 2024, and 2 appoints the following community representatives to the Arts Advisory Committee for a 3-year term concluding April 2027. A. Amber Stewart, B. Andre Ruggieri, C. Artie Owens, D. Beck Cole, E. Efren Pamilican, F. John Weldon, G. Sally Walsh, aka Lady Mohawk, H. Samana Porshafigi, I. Susan Kukuka, and J. Troy Rainbow. And apologies if I mispronounced any of those names. So.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Could I call for the councillor to second the motion? Councillor Trent? Are there any questions or point of clarification, councillor? Would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, that we had, you know, more expressions of interest, way more than we could accommodate under the terms of reference for the Arts Advisory Committee. And we've got a good sort of broad spread, I think, of the art forms reflected from, you know, literature to youth to creative industry, accessible arts, visual arts, etc. And a good mix of, you know, very well experienced people, and I'm really, you know, pleased to see the sort of the strength of the group that we're hopefully about to appoint. So we've got some very experienced people, you know, people who are in different stages of their career. So, yeah, as the councillor who will chair the committee after the vote, hopefully, yeah, I'm really looking forward to working with this group and progressing, you know, our arts discussions in the next 6 or so months.
Thank you. Would the seconder would like to speak to the motion, Councillor Twain?
Formally seconded, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Are there any speaker for the motion? Are there any speaker against the motion? And I put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion is carried. Agenda item 9.6, Climate Emergency Advisory Committee, appointment of the member. Can I call councillor to move the motion in regard to the item 9.6? So we need the councillor, okay. Now the recommendation that is
Councillor Hookhead.
Councillor
Do you want me to
Hookhead.
read it?
Yep.
Okay, I'll move it. That council 1 appoints the mayor and councillor Jorge Corquera as representatives to the Climate Emergency Advisory Committee until the end of the current council term, October 2024, and 2 appoints the following community representatives to the Climate Emergency Advisory Committee for a 2-year term concluding April 2026. A. Angela Ashley Chu, B. Alexander Stephen Ashley Chu, C. Pierre Dahl, D. Sarah Rickard, E. Natalia Brandenborn, F. Priya Van Ryan, G. Geraldine Russell, H. Robert Crittenden. Also, my apologies if I mispronounce any names similarly. Yep.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay. Now, could I call for the councillor to second the motion? Councillor Thomas, are there any questions or point of clarification? Councillor, would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Or just briefly, it just seems particularly pertinent, I suppose, that we're moving this motion here today, as hopefully some of the public and certainly councillors are aware. On Friday week past, Council together with Victoria University and Climate Emergency Australia hosted the Climate Emergency Conference, which I at least thought was fantastically successful. There was some great conversations, a lot of great networking, a lot of interesting initiatives highlighted or showcased, I suppose, and all sorts of conversations went on. So it's in that context, I think, particularly pertinent we're moving this motion here today and establishing, or newly establishing, this advisory committee for council. And I think in terms of the issues, of course, involved, Councillor Clark's already sort of noted all those. I mean, this is big picture stuff, but extremely pertinent in terms of the local actions of local government. So hopefully we can play, we can lead the way vis-a-vis other local governments. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you, Councillor Hawke. Would the second would like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I just want to add that, we've got a very committed and experienced group of people on the committee. People who've been working on local climate action responses for some time, and I think at least a couple who sort of were responsible for bringing the climate emergency declaration, encouraging council to declare or acknowledge a climate emergency in 2019. So it's kind of good that, they've kind of come full circle and be able to sit on the committee for the 2 years. So thanks, me.
Thank you. Any other speaker for the motion? Any speaker against the motion? I put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion is carried. Agenda item 9.7, update on speed limit on Hopkins Street, Footscray. Can I call for councillor to move the motion in regard to agenda item 9.7? Councillor Clark?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Councillors, I move that Council note and support the continued efforts and actions taken to enhance road safety along Hopkins Street and within the Joseph's Road precinct, as outlined in this report. Councillors, I commend this motion to you.
Can I call for the South councillor to second, Councillor Crawford? Are there any questions or point of clarification, councillor? No, would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, just briefly, Your Worship. Councillors, as I think we're all aware, our municipality has very much experienced very significant development and particularly enormous population growth, which is anticipated to continue. With many of the new developments popping up in Maribyrnong, I've got to say, councillors, one of the significant ones we've seen in our municipality has been the Joseph's Road precinct. And I also want to highlight here, councillors, that council takes the safety of everyone very, very seriously. And I think that this is why I very much support this report that's before us today. I do say, councillors, a number of steps have already been taken to progress this important issue. As we're all aware, we've already allocated funding for infrastructure upgrades, road upgrades in the Joseph's Road precinct. I'm also aware, councillors, that council officers have been meeting very regularly with the Department of Transport and Planning and community members to make the precinct a safer place for both residents and for commuters. Our Mayor has met with the Minister responsible.
That's right.
Both I and the Mayor have met with the Joseph's Road Precinct Action Group on more than one occasion, a number of occasions. Well, the job is not yet done, councillors. We are making a difference. Joseph's Road as a precinct was an industrial wasteland. It is now a major community hub, a major residential precinct. So what must occur is that structural change, reform of speed limits, this has to occur to ensure that the health and safety of our community is preserved. And I say, councillors, I commend this motion to you all, as I believe we are taking the required steps to ensure the safety of all members of our community. I commend the motion to you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Okay, would the second would like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge Samantha Meredith and the Joseph Road Precinct Action Group for bringing this to us, and also to officers for responding. Like the original feedback to the action group, the resident group, was that government wasn't willing to support the slower speed limits, but it just shows how when community and council work together, you know, that joint advocacy can be really powerful. So I think this is a great outcome, and yeah, thanks to everyone involved, and hopefully we can continue to move that precinct to being a really good area. I know we've certainly had a rough history in its planning and trying to, how do you even say it, fix the mess of previous state governments. But I think there's still certainly potential for this area. It can still be a great place to live, and you know, that's what we need to focus on now, is doing our best to make sure that this is a great place for our residents to live now and far into the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crawford. Any speaker for the motion? Okay, I would like to say a few words that well, thank you so much that Department, Mr. Paget, Director Infrastructure, and his team also heavily involved and working to support it happen. I remember that I immediately write a letter to the Minister of the Local Government Road and Transport, and also meet with the local MP. It's a very, very positive and productive meeting. I work with, as Councillor Clark said that, and I know the number of councillors have been involved in working and meeting with the resident as well to bring a positive and a good outcome for this. And I mean, many hands make light work, and working together is so important. It's a network and working to support one another. And I would like to thank you for the local MP, Mrs. Katie Hall, and Minister Melissa Hunt, and other who's involved on this. And again, thank you, and I support the motion as well. Okay, any others speak against the motion? And I'll put the motion into the vote. All those in favour? Okay, I declare the motion is carried. Agenda item 9.8, Governance Report, March 2024. Can I call for Councillor to move the motion in regard to agenda item 9.8? Councillor Clark?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Councillors, I move that Council notes the March 2024 Governance Report containing the record of informal meetings of councillors and councillor delegates report, which will be made available on Council's website for the term of the current Council. Councillors, I commend the motion to you.
Thank you. Can I call for the Councillor to second the motion? Councillor Thomas? Are there any questions upon the clarification, Councillor? Would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
No, formally moved.
The second would like to speak to the motion?
Formally seconded.
Thank you, Councillor. I now put the motion into the vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion is carried. Now, Councillor question time. Now we move into our Councillor question time. Question asked by Councillor must be according with the rule of 53.5 of the governance rule. Councillor question time is limited to 15 minutes unless an extension is resolved by Council. Any, Councillor, any question? Yeah, Councillor Crawford?
Thanks, Mayor. I'm keen to ask the other councillors, they didn't speak to their points, so I just thought I'd ask them now why they chose to vote against the Tibetan movement that I've moved earlier.
Okay, thank you,
I'm happy
Councillor.
to.
Yeah, Councillor Clark?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Crawford. I was really torn by this, absolutely. I've actually spent quite a bit of time up at McLeod Ganj in the Himachal Pradesh in India. I've been in and out of the Himachal Pradesh and working with the Tibetan community for some almost 50 years. I very much sympathise with their plight and very much support their issues. For me, the reason for not supporting the motion was quite simply it is outside the purview of this particular local government authority. Different to the Quo Vang flag in that some 10% of our community here is Vietnamese. So in terms of representation, I'm prepared to take that step further and step outside of a framework or a remit that I would normally operate within. That's the only reason why I didn't support the motion. I very much am highly supportive of the Tibetan community. I'm highly supportive of Tibetan culture, and I do say to you, Councillor, within the next 18 months I'll be going back to McLeod Ganj again, hopefully seeking an audience with the Dalai Lama if he's still with us.
Councillor Tran?
Councillor Crawford, I won't even speak to the demographic component. For me personally, that's not the decider here. I will distinguish between what your motion is and what the Covan flag protocols are at the moment, in that council does not fly the flag, it's the community that flies the flag. CEO, tell me if I'm wrong, if the Tibetan community were to seek to fly their flag for their day of uprising, or uprising day, I think that's what your motion referred to, they could go through the same channels that the Vietnamese community would ordinarily go through?
They would still need a council resolution, so it would need a council resolution either way. So they couldn't go. They couldn't just apply to myself. It'd have to have a council resolution. So
Correct,
don't
but the difference
flags.
is that the Vietnamese community fly the flag, not that council raises it on their behalf.
But still have to have them pass
The motion didn't say
So it's
the
the
council
wording of
was
the
going
motion that
to
you didn't like, was
raise the flag.
Well, I think, Councillor Crawford, if you... I mean, the motion is lost already, but that goes to the point.
That's fine.
Might have been a good idea to raise that before the motion was discussed then, if you had an issue with the wording of the motion. That would have been more useful.
Yeah, resolves to fly the flag. The council resolves to fly the flag.
We are resolving.
Yeah, that council resolves to fly it, not that the council resolves to allow the Tibetan
So
community
the
to fly
council
the flag.
resolves for the community to fly the flag. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that is the difference between your motion and between what the Covang do.
Okay.
I will flag that.
Just related to that, just a question for governance, I suppose. So are those two, if that motion was put in that
Next month.
framework, is that sufficiently different enough to avoid waiting for 3 months to come back?
No.
I think so, Councillor, that's...
No.
I might, through the chair, have to take that question
No,
and
that's-
come back to council.
I wouldn't think so, to be
No.
honest.
3 months.
So I have a follow-up question to Councillor Crawford.
So, Mayor,
Oh, through the,
Didn't
oh, the
get to
mayor,
it.
sorry.
I would agree with Councillor Clark, outline that for the reason why I'm sympathetic to the plight of the Tibetan people, but I don't believe this is the right way to achieve the outcome. And this is really, really the matter of the federal government, Commonwealth government matter. It's not our local that bring that to attention. So that's how I strongly believe it. It's a
even though
federal.
the Vietnamese community do the same thing?
Well, that's before my time. My time,
You're
but
opposed to that.
I'm the refugee background. I acknowledge that, but I said, yeah. So, yeah,
Chair, there's
Councillor.
one more question.
Councillor. Thomas?
So if a community group, whoever they are, wants to fly the flag, and they put in a request and it gets approved, is that does that have no end date? I mean, I can't remember in the 4 years that I've been here ever approving as a council, well, the Vietnamese community, for instance, or anybody else actually approving to use the community flagpole. So I'm just actually
If I
wondering.
could maybe answer that, and
Yeah, there's
the corporate services director might come in. So we have a community flagpole. Yes, people do need to apply to have a flag flown on that flagpole, and it's subject to a resolution of council. Again, it depends what the resolution says. So the community, the Vietnamese community of Australia applied to use that flagpole, applied to fly their flag at the council, the council chamber, and also there's one other location.
But I guess
There was no end date. No, it was an annual.
That's annual.
Flying.
Okay, and we don't have a council flag, a policy for use of the community flag, do we?
Well, we have a council flag policy, but mainly it relates to our requirements under the state and federal flag policy and what we're required to do. So
But
we
for
currently
our community flagpole, we don't have a policy for that, do we?
No.
Like
not
use
a
of the
particular one,
community-
because they're usually considered on a one-on-one basis by the council. So, a number are covered through our LGBTQ policy. So the trans flag, the rainbow flag, they're all covered through that policy. The Kovang flag's covered through the previous resolution. And I'm not aware that we fly any other flag. Oh, we do fly the Bulldogs flag, which has been flying before I got here, so I'm not sure. That's usually when they're in the finals. I'm assuming there was a resolution on that at some stage in the city of Footscray.
It's certainly been resolution, if I remember correctly, at various times when the Bulldogs
They're in the finals. Or
reached the finals.
Something, not that often.
No.
Thank you.
Yep, okay. Thank you. I have no more question. I declare the council question time closed. Urgent business. Councillor, any other item proposing urgent business for consideration? If no, okay. The urgent business, if they councillor confidential business? Anything? No, okay. I declare the meeting closed at 8:50 p.m.
Thank you.